Mbongeni Sikhakhane was attacked at his residence in Mbongeni Hilton in full view of his family in what appears to be a cold-blooded armed robbery.
When will it end, folks? When will sufficient resources be devoted to the tragedy that unfolds in South Africa virtually every day? Rural insecurity is something I've talked about on my program for 6 years. I was called naive by people on the far right, saying it's not rural insecurity, it's attacks on whites specifically. But I've said from the outset that this has always been a problem about rural insecurity and how unsafe South Africa's rural areas are. In no small measure to the politically motivated disbandment of the commando system, well, nigh on 20 years ago now. A foolhardy mistake by a corrupt political party that used that system as a scapegoat because they didn't understand the circumstances of South Africa. And here we are now. Under-resourced police, dishonest police, corrupt police. I mean, look what's happening in Mbongeni Commission. And here we are again, another member of South Africa's farming community murdered. And the media covering it. Only this time, it's not a white farmer, it's a black farmer. And for once, South Africa's media is actually paying attention. Will we finally get action in South Africa from its politicians, from its law enforcement, from its justice system to address this scourge? I highly doubt it. KwaZulu-Natal African Farming Association chairperson Mbongeni Sikhakhane was shot and killed at his home on Friday, Boxing Day. He was allegedly shot during a house robbery by 4 men, and they fled the scene with his car. The brutal murder of the KwaZulu-Natal African Farming Association of South Africa's chairperson, Mbongeni Sikhakhane, has been described as a great loss to the agricultural sector. The African Farmers Association of South Africa says black farmers are facing increasing and heightened risk linked to crime and is demanding a coordinated national response to tackle rural safety. Well, that's the sort of response I would have expected from all farming groups 30 years ago. It's good to see that they're on board with this. All farmers and residents of rural South Africa are in jeopardy. Now, they cite crime statistics show that 188 farm attacks occurred and 34 murders during 2024, with additional attacks and killings allegedly reported in early 2025. They describe the farm killings as a national crisis that demands urgent intervention. Except that's not what John Steenhuisen believes. That's not what the government of national unity believes. That's not what Cyril Ramaphosa believes. That's not what any senior leadership in the ANC believes. They simply believe that white South Africans are being murdered occasionally, and apparently that's okay when all South Africans are at risk. Now, the organization has also urged political leadership at the highest level to intervene. The organization called on the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, to engage urgently with the Minister of Police and other state agencies to implement such a plan without delay. And of course, that's an appeal I've been making for 6 years, and it has fallen on deaf ears. While the media spends most of its time simply reporting the occasional murder of white South African farmers and neglecting to report all the cases. Sikhakhane was 50, allegedly was shot during the house robbery at his home in Sweetwaters. According to police spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Paul Magwaza, 4 men attacked him with a firearm outside his house. They forced him inside the house where there are other family members. They shot him twice, after which the suspects took valuable items from inside the house. He was rushed to the hospital where he later succumbed to his injuries. They left the scene with the deceased vehicle. No arrests have been made so far. Now, the central theme of AFASA's response is its rejection of what it calls a dangerous narrative around farm attacks in South Africa. They say there's a dangerous narrative that only white commercial farmers suffer this scourge. This narrative is misleading and harmful. Farm killings do not discriminate by race, color, or scale of operation. Well, that's what I've been saying for 6 years on my broadcast. Where were you? The organization stressed that black farmers, particularly smallholder and emerging farmers, are often less visible in public debates, yet face heightened risk due to limited resources. That's because of your corrupt media who fail to report on this. When colored, white, black, Indians are murdered on farms, it's seldom touched by the news. But when it can sensationalize a white farmer, they'll do it at the negligence of everyone else. Black farmers, especially developing farmers, are among the worst affected because they lack the resources to secure their farms and protect themselves. Well, that's a statement that has no data behind it. It's a logical statement. I mean, they have no ability to put, razor wire and fences and cameras and things like that, if that makes sense. But where's the data to support it? The bottom line is everyone's vulnerable. Now, AFSA linked this vulnerability directly to broader national concerns. Unlike large commercial operations, many smallholder and emerging farmers lack the financial resources, infrastructure, and private security capacity to protect themselves, their families, and their farms. They warned this exposure threatens both their livelihoods and national food security. The term food security, which the white farming community has been arguing about for decades and has fallen on deaf ears. But now that the black farming organizations mentioned, perhaps will get attention. Meanwhile, police in Hilton have opened a case of murder and house robbery for investigation. At least it's being reported as murder, unlike the one we saw in Brits, listed as a house robbery. In their statement, officers said it was deeply shocked and outraged by his brutal killing. This tragedy comes at a time when families across the country are on holiday, enjoying welcome rest from the toil of their endeavors throughout the year. Farmers, however, do not enjoy this benefit, said Molefe Mahape, the national chairperson for AFSA. Well, you're right. Farmers work 365 days a year. Farmers continue to labor tirelessly to ensure that food is available for all the festivities and year-end celebrations. The loss of another farmer is devastating because it robs the country of one more soldier in the fight against food insecurity. Mlape, the national chairperson of AFSA, describes Sikhakhane not just as a black farmer, but also as a respected leader. Sikhakhane served with distinction as AFSA KwaZulu-Natal province chairperson for many years, working tirelessly to uplift emerging farmers and strengthen support for black farmers in the province. Sikhakhane will always be remembered for his significant contribution to improving the lives of ordinary people through farming and agricultural development. His passing is indeed a great loss to the agricultural community sector, said MEC Mbongeni Sikhakhane. Mbongeni Mayor in Howick, Chris Pappas, is also condemned to brutal killing. He says that Sikhakhane was more than a leader in agriculture. He was a pillar of strength in the farming community, a mentor to emerging farmers, and a champion for rural development across the province. Pappas added his dedication to empowering farmers and building inclusive growth in the agricultural sector made him a respected and admired figure. His loss is a devastating blow to his family, to AFSA, the agricultural sector, and all South Africans who benefited from his leadership. He called on the police to ensure a thorough and urgent investigation so that those responsible are arrested and face the full might of law. Justice must not be delayed, and it must not be denied. Well, I will not disagree with Chris Pappas, the mayor of Howick, but what I will say is that justice, how about preventative efforts here? How about patrolling? How about resources for law enforcement? How about additional police stations in remote rural areas? How about return of the commandos? How about the government of South Africa start taking this issue seriously? How many South Africans have to be murdered before they pay attention or before they make excuses and whataboutism? There is a clear effort to target rural South Africans, which I've been saying for years. I've been attacked on the right. I've been attacked on the left. People have selective hearing. These are human beings, regardless of skin pigmentation, and they don't deserve this. And the thugs that perpetrate these crimes need to be apprehended, tried, convicted, and serve their time for the rest of their natural lives. What say you, South Africa, Mzansi? Terrible, tragic news. At least the media covered this story. And as always, if the information is available, I cover it. God bless and Happy New Year.